Mom? This is number one. Some time ago, the bros and I decided that we were going to come up with some funny stories to tell for Mother's Day so that we can kind of laugh about the past that we've had. The stories were supposed to be stories that we haven't told in a while, and in my case, some that I haven't told at all. So this is the first time that I'm telling you, and I know you'll remember. So a little backstory to this first story. This is story number one. So about a month ago, Emily came into the room. I was watching TV and she was very embarrassed and laughing. So of course I asked her, what's going on? She tells me that they were talking about the reproductive system in school. So she was embarrassed, and some of the words she was saying, she was just, laughing and really shy. She was beet red. So, I started laughing, and Emily's 12 years old, so that got me thinking, and I immediately, I was having trouble coming up with my stories for this little video journal, and then it hit me, bam, the sex ed class that you actually sat in on. So this is how the story goes. So back in, I think it was 1994, so Timothy said 25 years ago, but 1994, I was at Isleta High School. Back when I was at Marion Manor, we had gone through a little sex ed class. It was like a little generic 1980s black and white video. The males were separated from the females, and we kind of went through that little video class. That was, we didn't really get anything out of there. Well, the big class was in 1994. I was 15 at the time at Isleta High School. I was just about to finish up my freshman year. And the teacher, we were in a portable for one of my classes, and they had told us that they were going to give us a sex ed class. So they gave us permission slips, and they told us, get these signed. And if by chance your parents don't sign, they are more than welcome to come in and sit in if they want. So of course everybody laughed and said, our parents are going to come and sit down and listen to sex ed, with their kids. So you guys remember the kitchen that we had at the house? We had a little bar stool area that separated the dining room from the kitchen. So you were cooking in the kitchen, and I went up, and I was hoping that Dad would sign it, but of course Dad wasn't there, and so I was like, man, I pushed it off. It was actually 2 days that I held on to it. So I pushed it off until the last minute. So of course I go up to you and I'm telling you about it, and I'm trying to be nonchalant. I'm trying to tell you that it's no big deal, it's whatever, but you kept on asking me questions. And so what are you guys going to talk about? What is this? What is this? And I was like, man, she's not going to sign this thing, and so no, you asked to see it, and then you read it, and you actually said, I'm not going to sign it. So I was like, well, okay, fine. You're not going to sign it. I won't go through the class, big deal. You're like, I'm going to go. And immediately I was like, what? And you said, yeah, I'm going to go. I'm going to sit in the class. I want to see what they tell you, what they talked about. I didn't like this idea. So I pretended like it didn't bother me. I said, okay, oh yeah, cool, Mom. Yeah, it's a good idea. And I went to my room and I was like, I don't like this. How can I fix this? So I, was kind of pacing in my room trying to figure out how to get you to change your mind, and it didn't work. So, and then I tried just straight up telling you, Mom, please don't go. I'm going to be the only kid there with a parent, and nobody wants their parent there. They're going to make fun of me. You weren't having it. I'm going, that's the end of it. Deal with it. So the next day, there you go. You show up to my class. I walked into my portable, ready for class, with my friends. And there you were, sitting in the back of the room. And I was like, oh, man. So walk in, and everybody started asking, who's that? Who's that? Who's that? Well, a few of them knew that was after I had told them, hey, that's my mom. So you were sitting there, and it was funny because you were sitting there the whole time with a, little smirk on your face, the mom smirk. And you were sitting in the back, and they started going through the class. I was so embarrassed. I was looking back at you, and you didn't change your expression. You stayed there, and they went through everything. They showed us videos. They, were talking about it. Every time they said something, dirty, I looked back at you, and you're still just sitting there. And I was so embarrassed that it really gave me, well, one part in the class, they actually took out the cucumbers and the bananas and gave everybody a condom and had everybody put it on, you know, either a cucumber or a banana. And the whole time I'm like, I don't want to do this, you know. I really didn't want to do it. And you know, so that was one of the things that stuck with me, is that, man, my mom is there. She's freaking giving it to me, you know. But you did it, and I was embarrassed for a little while. I got made fun of, but you know what? I understood it's because you loved me, and you know, that was part of the growing up process. So that's my contribution to Mama's Day 2019. That's story number 1. Let me prep for story number 2.
One Easter, Sally showed up to my dad's house wearing different types of flip-flops. So now I wear different types of flip-flops.
This one time, she farted so loud, I swear, she lifted herself up off the floor. It was amazing.
Where do I begin? I'll begin with maybe setting up the time frame for the story I'm about to tell. The story I'm about to tell is about a young man and his control of his booty. That's right. The lack of control of his booty. The story dates back to May of 1990. Yes, you heard right. 1990. Pause for a second. Setting, location, LeBaron Park Elementary School. And I, the protagonist of this story, was on my way to what would eventually become a lifelong endeavor into academia. Little did we know that day that our noses would all be succumbed to the odorous, toxic fumes produced by young Alexander Ray Grijalva. As I stood there in this classroom, looking around at all the posters, what joys might come from this future endeavor of mine, I, along with Mom, as I was holding her hand, and Chris and Tim, who were there, so willfully supporting me in my journey, were all hit with the odor and smell, boom, of something so toxic, so heinous, that every other occupant in that room, to include my teacher, Miss Armstrong, all were overcome by a feeling of shock and horror. Someone had, yes, just shit themselves. As the parents all realized that the individual who may have shat their pants might have been their child, they began looking, oh so intently, on determining who was the culprit of these shitty drawers. Johnny? Nope. Susie? Nope. All their eyes zoomed in on one pair of little orange booty shorts belonging to none other than Pee Wee Grijalva. It was at that time that Mom realized she needed to act. She knew that the occupants of that very tiny classroom could not withstand those toxic odors for very much longer. So what did Mom do? She did what she's been known to do on so many occasions. She made a command decision. She determined that that shitty little butt belonging to young 2.5-year-old Pee-wee needed to be cleaned. And it needed to be cleaned by none other than her eldest sibling, Chris Grijalva. While I must say that everybody in that classroom, including myself, was proud that Chris had accepted such a daunting task, we all knew ourselves in our hearts that we did not want to be the ones having to clean that dirty little booty belonging to such a nasty little baby. But Chris did. And it was during that time that we all realized what we've come to know our entire lives. If any one of us four bros ever finds ourselves in a shitty situation, Mom's got our back. She'll make sure that shitty situation, regardless of who does it, gets cleaned up. Love you, Mom.
So I got a story for you guys. This one doesn't directly involve Mom, but I will blame her for the rest of my life for this. So this takes me back to when I was stationed in Hawaii. I wasn't really around many Hispanic people. Don't want to make this about race, but there was a lot of white boys up there. So I was what you would call, I guess, the Spanish aficionado. If you needed to know a Spanish word, you came to me. You know, if I didn't know that word off the top of my head, I would run to the bathroom, make an excuse, run to the bathroom, and I would ask Mom. Mom would always bail me out and give me the Spanish word. So I kind of made a name for myself as knowing Spanish. Unfortunately, one of my staff sergeants was from El Paso, and he too knew Spanish. We weren't usually around each other, but he was there sometimes. This one particular time, I remember coming in after a long day shift. We used to work 3 days on, 3 days off, so it was like that third day, you know, coming in. I was with a guy named Fitzgerald, a white guy from California, didn't know too much Spanish. So I remember we came in, and there's a big TV room. We were going in there. So I go in there, and I kick off my boots and sigh, and I say, man, I'm llantas. I remember my white friend saying, like, man, what does that mean? So I said, oh, come on, white boy, you don't know Spanish, keep up. It means I'm tired, man. Long day, I'm tired. I want to just go to sleep. From the corner of my eye, I see my staff sergeant just staring at me for some reason. So I have to look up, like, what's going on, staff sergeant? And he's like, what did you just say? So, you know, I repeated myself, you know, like, oh, man, I'm llantas, man, I'm tired. He says, tires. It means tires, not tired like tires on a car, not you're tired. I felt about this big. It was actually that same staff sergeant when I had a fake leather jacket and I called it Ulefante. He called me out on that time too. So thanks a lot, Mom. Real good Spanish lessons when we were growing up.
Okay, so I have a story for you. One time, Alex, Haley, and I were living with Granny, Pops, and Tim in the same Crispin house where it was really freaky and really spooky and we'd always hear things. Well, one night I went to sleep with Haley on this side, Alex on this side, and I ended up hearing a knock super fast on my left side. And I was so scared to open my eyes, so I counted 3 in my head to wake up Alex. And then I ended up counting 1, 2, 3, and I woke up Alex and I was telling him that I heard noises and I heard knocking. He didn't believe me. He said, all right, just go to sleep. So we ended up going to sleep with the lights on. Well, the next morning I ended up telling Sally all the noises that I heard, and she ended up telling me that it was a woodpecker. Come to find out, a couple years later, we passed by the house and the house is made of brick. Thanks a lot, Sally. Thank you.
All right, so here's story number 2, Mama's Day 2019. So in that same time period, about 1993, 1994, it was my freshman year at Isleta for sure. I was kind of messing around with the girl that you called the Amazon. So the Amazon was always around me. She didn't leave me alone, so she was just constantly forcing her way to be my friend. So it wound up happening that we were just together a lot. So one time, you know, we were together and she was sucking on my neck and she left me a nasty hickey. I'm talking about a purple, huge, nasty hickey. Well, I got upset at her. I was like, how could you do this? You know, my mom's gonna kick my ass. Like, how do I? And so we went through, I remember being there at school, like, we were powwowing, we were with my friends trying to figure out how we can get rid of these things. I hid it from you for a day. I was able to hide it, you know, with my hair, my mullet. I was able to kind of cover it. But I had tried everything. I tried freezing a spoon. Somebody had told me freeze a spoon and kind of open up the blood vessels and it'll go back to normal. We tried ice. I had ice on that thing and it was just the nastiest thing. And so, you know, I hid it from a day, and second day nothing worked, and I was stressing. Well, I forgot. So one of the points that, I was talking to you, or I was talking to the little guys, I was doing something, well, you got a glimpse of it. You saw what it was. Well, you didn't tell me. Instead, you wrote a note to Pops, to Dad. You wrote on the note, look what Christopher has on his neck, go talk to him, and you had little mad faces on there. So I'm in my room listening to my music, and Dad walks in. So Dad comes into my room, and Dad didn't have a poker face. Dad didn't have any kind of tactics, or how am I gonna, parent you pretty well. No, he just went in and said, hey, Chris, look what Mom wrote me. Gave me the note. I got to read it, and I was like, oh, no. So I read it all, and I went into panic mode. So, people panic, so they come up with excuses and lies. I tried to lie my way out of it. I told Dad, no, it's because my friends, they used fiberglass, and they were just messing around, and he wasn't buying it. Dad told me, he was like, come on, Chris, please. To me, that's where Come On, Chris, Please started, was from Dad. And he was like, come on, Chris, please, like, just, Mom, I don't know what Mom wants me to do. I don't know if she wants me to spank you, she wants me to yell at you. He goes, I don't know, man, I don't know what to do. Come on, just please, can you just stop doing this to Mom and making her mad? And we had a little father-son moment, because we were trying to figure out how to get you to get off our back, to get off our case. And we sat there talking, and he was telling me stories, but it was funny how, like, you couldn't even, you didn't even want to talk to me. I think you would have beat my ass. I think that's really why you wrote the note, is so that you didn't have to, add another ass beating to my history of beatings that you gave me. All love, I know, it was all love. But yeah, you were pretty upset at me. You didn't talk to me for a few days because you were just so upset. And but yeah, that's one that's always gonna remember. And I've never told that story, so you're I know you remember the time because you wrote the note. But yeah, little guys, when I was thinking about this, I was like, man, nobody's ever heard this story. So here's my contribution number 2. I love you, Mom.
Okay, guys, so I'm gonna keep this as PG as possible here. So the year was 2010. Me and Mom were living over on Yarborough, and Michael Douglas had just come out that he was diagnosed with throat cancer. And he also had an interesting story on how he got throat cancer. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. So I believe he was making his round on the talk shows, and Mom saw him on Oprah, I believe. So she sparked a little idea. So I remember that day, me and Mom were gonna do some errands. So we started off by going to Walgreens. So we get into Mom's little red truck and we start heading that way. When Mom starts telling me all about how he got throat cancer, all the reasons and how you can lead up to throat cancer. Let me just tell you, that little 2-minute trip from our house to Walgreens was very interesting. Very interesting. So I get back in the truck after I run into Walgreens. I come back thinking the conversation's over. Nope. So the conversation continues for about another 5 to 10 minutes. So I looked it up in the dictionary, and under the word awkward, there's my story on how Mom told me what leads to throat cancer. So thanks, Mom.
What's up, guys? Happy Mother's Day, Mom. Mother's Day 2019. Sorry I couldn't be there this year. But as you can see, we've compiled quite a few videos to kind of just show you exactly or tell you some of the stories that just stand out in our mind that you should probably hear, that you haven't heard, or that we don't talk about too frequently. But I took a little sillier of approach last video. So this video, I just wanted to tell a story that is genuinely my most favorite to tell. I've probably told it dozens, if not more times, to anybody who's willing to listen. But really the end state that I achieve with telling this story is just the simple fact of showing that you've been a passionate mother our whole lives, from the time we were little to now. And this story, I think, does the best job of doing that in telling like who you are as a parent. But just a little background on the story, it had to have been 1999, maybe 2000. You know, so Pee Wee and I were maybe between 12 and 14. We were, it was the summer, so everybody's out of school. We don't have anything to do except get ourselves into trouble. So Mom, you were out running the Tasker and Aaron with Tim. Chris was at a friend's house, I think. Dad was on the couch asleep, and I'm pretty sure he was hungover. So Pee Wee and I, we snuck into the closet and grabbed one of Chris's BB guns, or I think it was a pellet gun, and the other one of us grabbed the other BB gun, and one of them was, both were pump action. One of them was pump action and was really strong, and I think it was a pellet gun too. And so we were both cruising around the backyard, shooting things, shooting cans, and we decided it'd be a great idea to climb on top of the roof like little mocosos. And we started again shooting things in the yard, and we decided it'd be a good idea to turn our barrels to the street. And it was a time during the summer when the ice cream trucks were passing 3-4 times, maybe 5 times a day. And we'd all gotten so annoyed with hearing the little jingle of the ice cream trucks. So as the ice cream truck was passing, Pee Wee and I are on the roof like SEAL Team 6 snipers, and as it passed, we both drew a bead on the ice cream truck. Both of us capped a few shots, didn't see or think anything of it, so we just jumped down. We started wandering around the neighborhood, trying to look for more things to shoot with no shoes, and I'm pretty sure one of us didn't have a shirt. And as we're walking down the street, and we see the ice cream truck pull back into the neighborhood and start yelling and screaming. Gets out, he's about a mid-30s Mexican dude. He's like, "You little shits, look what you did to the back of my truck." Walk around, sure enough, there's BB holes in the back window, and it's shattered. Me and Pee Wee couldn't deny it. You know, we had the BB guns that were fully loaded. Started denying. He asked one of the neighbors that lived right next door to Adam's house, and was asking him if he knew where we lived, and we were in the back of him, like. But eventually we went back to the house and knocked on the door and said, "Dad, hey, we're in trouble. Like, this guy's yelling at us, says he needs money." Dad came out, didn't know what to do. He was just like, "Oh man, I don't know what to do." And at the time, Mom pulled up. She heard what these guys had to say. She looked at us, and Pee Wee and I thought we were done. Nope, she sided with us. She got right in these dudes' face, didn't back down. You would have thought that she was a prize fighter that could have knocked both of them out, and honestly, she probably could have. Like this dude's boss or supervisor came and like was arguing too, and Mom got in both their faces and said, "How dare you think you can come over here and accuse my sons of vandalizing your shit? We're not giving you a fucking dime. You gotta go." And they left. We didn't hear shit about it after that. Mom looked at us, grabbed the rifles, and said, "Don't be stupid." We didn't even get spanked. Pee Wee and I like realized we genuinely dodged a bullet or a BB, and I think the whole aspect of that story, like I said, goes to show that regardless of what happens, you know, from the time we were little to now, Mom's always got our back. And like I said, I'm going to be telling that story for the rest of my life. And without a doubt, just goes to show, Mom, we think about you all the time. These stories are not going anywhere anytime soon, and we felt it would be best that you listen to them and hear them out a little bit. So happy Mother's Day 2019. Love you, Mom.
Okay, so this one's, I'm not too sure how I feel about this one, but one time my mom and dad were arguing, and I was really small, and my mom broke every single window of my dad's truck with a hammer. Wasn't funny at all when it happened, but I'll be damned if that story doesn't bring a smile to my face every time I think about it. Shenanigans. Love you, Mom.
Granny? Yes, Emelita? Remember that time you said you were gonna take my class cupcakes for Halloween? You forgot, huh? No, Emelita, I did not forget. Well, you didn't go.
Okay, so here's a story about Mom. Involves Uncle Ben. There was a certain time in high school where Uncle Ben really wanted a tattoo so bad. I can't remember even what he wanted, but it was to the point where he got good grades, did everything mom asked him to do, like perfect child, never talked back, anything like that. So at the end of this time period, mom ends up taking him to go get a tattoo, so we all go to the tattoo parlor. Turns out, Uncle Ben, Marquis, ends up wimping out, and mom ends up getting, Uncle Ben wimped out, the Marine. He wimped out. Mom ends up getting a tattoo and totally punks him out. Way to punk out Uncle Ben, Mom. Boom, roasted.
Mom left me at grandma's and didn't even notice.
So this day, I don't even know how old I was, but I just remember it was real. So mom and dad are fighting, just like, I don't know about what. They're fighting about something. And dad's feeling a little brave. Dad starts squawking back and thinking he's just feeling a little froggy. He feels brave that day, so he starts mouthing off to mom. So they're going back and forth. I remember mom was like in the TV room, the living room area, and dad was in that big, I guess, informal living room, the one with my drum set in it. And so they were arguing about something, yelling, and son of a this and son of a that.
Time out. Okay, so I wasn't gonna get involved in this one, but it seems like everybody remembers the story, but they don't remember how the fight started. So I remember it was the year 2000. It was a Tuesday night, and I had band practice that night, which usually ran until 9 o'clock. So I remember dad was supposed to pick me up that day. I don't like to sit around and chit chat. I just wanted to get home. I had homework. So I remember as soon as I put myself away, I headed outside, and I don't like to wait with everybody else. So I went and I hid around the corner where the payphones were. Yes, there were still payphones back then. And I stayed there. I figured I'd wait there, because that's normally where mom and dad would go pick me up, is in the horseshoe. So I waited, 15 minutes passed by, still there. 20 minutes passed by, still there. 30 minutes passed by, and I'm the only one left. Everyone else has gone home. The band teachers, the other parents, the other kids, everyone left home already. So I'm there by myself, trying to figure out if I should call mom, if I even had a quarter to call mom. When my friend's mom drove by and she called me to the van. So she kept telling me, do you need a ride? Do you need a ride? I was like, no, my dad's coming. He'll be here in a little bit. She's like, no, let's just give you a ride. So then I felt bad. So I get into her van and we take off. So I get home and mom's there at the house. She asked me where my dad is, and I was like, I don't know. He didn't come and pick me up. Annette's mom dropped me off. And she got mad. So this is where we pick up the story. So go ahead, time in.
And dad decides to have a drop the mic moment. So he says the famous line, "You're just like a Ramirez."
And we all heard it clear as day. Just like a Ramirez. And by the time he reached the Z in Ramirez, we'd all stopped what we were doing. Simultaneously looked at each other, almost in disbelief, and then looked at what we knew was about to be a nuclear bomb about to drop. And what happened next was pretty nasty.
I heard him, just like a Ramirez, and he started getting louder.
And he turns around and he starts walking off, just like a rooster, just chest out, and he's got the slick gangster walk. And he's walking right to the front door. Thinks he's just gonna go off just like that without anything happening.
And it was at that time that I realized, damn, Dad, you fucked up.
I remember all of us were just like, whoa, like it was about to go down.
like, it all happened in a blur. It was all really, really fast. It all really happened. She didn't even say anything. I remember her just like sounds coming out like, tick, 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 tick. And then she like moved across like a phantom in the night.
She stopped whatever she was doing and she just, boom, she ran toward Dad. Dad didn't even suspect it. Dad's walking, you know, toward the front door, and Mom just hits him like a bulldozer. She just, all her weight just, boom, pushes him. And, you know, you remember those crash test dummies as soon as they get into the crash and they're all limber and legs, arms. Well, that was Dad. Dad was a human test crash dummy. He got pushed into the wood door and into the screen door that we had.
Poor bastard never had a chance. She puts her hand on the back of his head, and our door was kind of tricky. It had like this deadbolt that only like Tim, Chris, maybe them two knew how to open it. Very tricky. So Dad goes to open the door, and BAM! Let me do that shit again, just so you guys know. BAM! Mom smashes Dad's head into the door. It was a wrought iron door, mind you. It's wrought iron. That door bent at the top. It never did close right after that. It was always like kind of messed up at the top after his face went through. But I remember if it wasn't for Tim, Dad might have died that day. Tim comes in out of nowhere. First try, gets the lock, throws that out, locks the door behind him. So kind of like holding Mom back so she doesn't catch a charge for murder. And Dad just kind of like skimpered off into the night. And we didn't hear from him for a while after that. After that, I remember we were like the best behaved kids. It was actually kind of scary. Chris admitted to me later that he pissed himself a little bit, so it's kind of rough.
So that was pretty epic, but that line will forever be in my brain. You're just like a Ramirez. Mom, I hope that these funny memories have made you laugh. That's all this was, just you know, something so that we can. There's a little change of pace, a little different gift idea that we all came up with. So I hope you enjoyed it, and you know, we're all the men we are today because of you. You know, you pretty much raised us on your own, so we appreciate that. We'll always be grateful. We love you, Mom. Happy Mother's Day.